Assalamu alaikum and salutations, fellow cybernautics and virtual vigilantes of all shape and sizes. As part of Graxo Consulting, I welcome you all and yet another fresh, brief session of webinar. Joining me today with Mohammed Ahmed as we discuss about SAMA MVC. But before that, in today's digital age, maintaining robust cybersecurity measures for authentication and authorization is absolutely critical for organizations of all sizes. Cybersecurity serves as the first line of defense against wide range of threats from data breaches to cyber attacks and encompasses not only authentication authorization controls but also various other protective mechanisms. Speaking of which, as we talk about the principalities and standardization of navigating the cybersecurity realm and how we can maintain and implement and establish that robust cybersecurity for all the fintechs in Saudi Arabia, we will be talking about the SAMA minimum verification controls. And in the last video, we talk about what SAMA is all about, the Saudi Arabia Monetary Agency authorization, and about the standard here. So again, joining with me, Mohammed Hammad Ahmed, as we welcome him again in today's webinar session. Mohammed Hammad Ahmed, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Same here, Arsalan. Thanks for joining you again.
Right. And Hamad, as we deep dive today in SAMA MVC about the controls of onboarding and regulatory compliance about registration and controls that are outlined in SAMA MVC. But could you explain the key principle behind the registration process and why they are important for fintech businesses?
All right. Thank you, Arsalan, for the question. So basically, as I said last time also, that SAMA, MVC, and CRFR, MVC is more focused on how your product is being developed, right? How you interact externally with your customers, etc. And it's devising that rules and regulations that how you can interact with them. So the first part, which is onboarding and registration controls, the idea is that you need to do authentic KYC, which is based on the APIs or the facilities that are provided by the ministries in Saudi Arabia, right? So, for example, you need to verify the ID of a person. Of course, you have to go to their website. You have to call the ILM services, the ILM APIs, and those APIs are going to help you verify whether the person who's entering the ID, etc., is correct or not. Similarly, we have other services like Nifas, Tahakkuk, etc., which each have a specific purpose and a role, and they are helping you verify the identity of the person and the information which he or she is entering.
As we go through the SAMA MVC standard, we have heard a lot about the NIFAS, Tahakkuk and NAFIS, and also the lending applications. So could you tell us about a bit elaboratively, okay, what is these sort of standards and what are the controls over these?
All right, so basically, these are different APIs that have been developed by different ministries within the Saudi Arabia, right? So, based on the risk to a company, okay, they provide different features so that you can access them or you can verify that information. Okay, for example, within Nefas, what happened that there is an application and the person is authenticated. It's kind of a single sign-on, so person can be verified using their facial recognition, right, and their ID, etc. Then there are some services from ILM in which if you send the ID or the Akama number, and then it's going to return you the date of birth or name of a person, right? Similarly, in some cases, the fintechs also have to use their company's verification. So in that case, there is a company registration number, CR number. You can send that, and against that, they are going to provide you some information that you can verify against it. Okay, so you can know whether the person ID is valid or not, the company CR is valid or not, whether it's actually a company or not, right? Similarly, in Tahakkuk, what it's doing that it's verifying the phone number with the ID of a person, right? So whenever we purchase a SIM, etc., that SIM is registered against our ID. Okay, so that verification is being done using the backend systems, most probably with the Upshare, in which they are trying to identify whether the person actually registers this mobile number. So you may have multiple mobile numbers, but only one is used as your primary mobile number. So you should always use those numbers to authenticate yourself in all the fintech applications. Again, the idea is that there should be one single identity for a person while using multiple applications.
Right, right. Okay. So, as we deep dive into the authentication and authorization, what are the specific challenges that the fintech organization regulated by SAMA might face when implementing the registration controls, and how can these challenges be addressed effectively?
All right. So basically, as I told you, the APIs, etc., the access to the APIs are provided by the government entities or ILM, which is basically managing these APIs, right? So in that case, you first need to make sure that within your customer journey, you are identifying these steps that at what level you are going to verify a person ID, at what level you are going to verify a person phone number, right? Because at the same phone number, you have to send the OTPs. How you are going to verify sometimes you have to verify the credit rating of a person, right? So in the lending applications, if they are trying to take a loan, you need to first verify their credit ability, that will they be able to pay it back, right? And for that, there is a
Right.
separate organization, SIMA, in Saudi Arabia, which provide that information. So you need to integrate with that APIs as well, right? So you need to first finalize your customer journey. At what point, what integrations are required based on your business model. So lending applications might need different kind of verifications. The companies which are doing crowdfunding, for example, they might need different kind of verifications. So all these things need to be first finalized within your customer journey experience. Then you need to add them within your architecture diagram, right, within your design of your application. And again, first you need to apply to them to so that they can allow you to use their APIs, right? So that takes time. Most of the cases, what I identified, that companies rush into developing the applications, but they didn't focus on identifying how they're going to add the APIs. So what happens that once they complete everything, then they have to go back to the drawing board again, try to add all these APIs, and that affects your development life cycle. And of course, like all the testing and everything have to be redone again. So it's a lot of redo that you have to do.
And what do they call this approach here? As you have already mentioned about most of the organization doing the same repetitive mistakes and having the same difficulties and challenges, is it known as the cost benefit approach? Why do they do this? In your own experience, have you faced?
All right. So basically, again, because you need to market the product quickly, but in Saudi Arabia, what you cannot just launch a fintech application just like that and everyone is going to start using it, right? You first need to get the license from SAMA, then you can
Right,
launch that application. And for that, SAMA is providing a sandbox. In the sandbox environment, they are allowing you to use these APIs, develop your complete application walkthrough, do the integrations, whatever are required with banks, etc., right? Develop
right.
your complete working application, then you apply for the license. And for that license, you have to get the SAMA MVC, CRFR. You should be like, maximum compliant with them, right? And then you are going to get the license to move into the production and actually start pitching your application to normal customers, right? So
Right.
before that, if you are not considering all these things, your launch will be delayed a lot if you are not integrating all these APIs. And this is what we have seen, like, in the companies which were able to identify MVC requirements, build their design, build their customer journey after understanding SAMA MVC, they had much faster time to market, and they were able to launch. Like I've seen some companies, they were able to get the license within 2 3 months from SAMA, because they were very focused on making sure that they comply with the SAMA requirements. And of course, because at the end of the day they are the main regulator, you need to make sure that you comply with them instead of finding shortcuts or bypassing their requirements.
Understandable, indeed. And speaking of about applications, there are mobile applications as well, as you may know of. So, any specific requirements that does SAMA cover the side of the mobile applications and as to maintaining the user control?
Yeah, so basically there are 2 3 very simple requirements. Like for example, your application should be on the app stores, okay, on the Google Play and the App Store, just to make sure that it's being downloaded from an authentic source, right? Similarly, your applications or your mobile application should not execute on a rooted device or a jailbroken device, just to make sure that there's no unauthorized access granted to your application. So the fintechs have to design their applications keeping some things in mind to make sure that within that specific application, there's no vulnerability or there's no weakness which would be exploited by weak security of a mobile device.
Right, right. So, what are the primary objectives of the special controls outlined in the SAMA MVC for lending applications, and how do they differ from the general controls?
All right. So basically, with respect to lending, the risk is increasing much more, right? Because someone is taking money of someone else, there's no clear transactions. You need to recover in a period of time. So in that case, the risk is more, right? So in that case, what SAMA is doing is that the fintechs which are categorized within the lending domain, okay, they have to implement some additional controls. Like for example, they need to integrate with a digital signature authority, so that if a person is claiming that he wants to take a loan, they cannot say later that, oh, I didn't requested that, right? So that digital signature is going to authenticate the request for the loan. Okay, similarly, there's a another API from Nafis. What it does is that it's like promissory notes. For example, if you are claiming that you are taking a loan, there's a legal thing you can do if they do not return the loan. Okay, so these are some of the things that you have to make into, or you have to call a person once they request a lending, or they want to lend some money or a product or whatever. Okay, so these additional controls help you make sure that those risks related to lending are mitigated as much as possible.
Right, right. And at the end, in ensuring the compliance against the SAMA MBC, what steps should the member organization take to ensure the compliance, and how can they continuously monitor and improve the cybersecurity practices?
All right, so with respect to SAMA MVC, of course, some things are done once. Okay, for example, if you are integrating the APIs, etc., this will be done during the start phase, and then you have to just make sure that those APIs are kept updated, that you are continuously monitoring them. But with respect to, there are some domain, some requirements within the general controls as well. Like for example, you will be doing the backups, you will be making sure that you have a contingency plans, you are monitoring the fraud scenarios. So these are the some things which need to be continuously updated. So you might be coming to know some about some new fraud scenarios, right? So you need to make sure that you are identifying your fraud scenarios, you are implementing controls, you are implementing proper SMS, OTPs, etc., to make sure that your risks are mitigated as much as possible. So that should be monitored along with the other compliance requirements like SAMA CRFR or CSF as well.
Right, right. So in today's session, we discuss about how should the fintechs know their customers and how they can fortify their infrastructure regarding the lending applications and all of the aspects of regarding their services. So thank you everyone for joining us today in our brief session, and thank you so much, Hamad, for taking us to the journey and embarking us on the relevancy of every Sama. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Bye bye.